Hello, rugby fans. I'm Joe Harrington with FloRugby and Flow Sports. With me, as always, is our man in the UK, Philip Bendon. We're talking all things rugby. This week, we have just a loaded podcast for you. We've got the North South recap from the URC. We got the Northampton Saints just rolling down teams, mowing them down there in the Prem. We've got midseason awards in both URC and Gallagher Prem, along with some top 14 midseason. They're a little bit further past their midseason, but they play 26 rounds. So what do you know? Also, we've got Champions Cup round 3 this week. Obviously, we're going to be picking some games there. Philip, this is like the best time of year for rugby. You've got the domestic league races like starting to heat up. You've got Champions Cup. Teams are gonna be eliminated from the playoffs this year, and this week teams are gonna be cinching their playoff spots this week. Just we've gone through Derby season. Now we're still gonna get some derbies down the stretch here, but the bulk of Derby season is kind of done here. But now we're gonna enter championship run here. Philip,
Ye-
how excited are you of the new year?
Joe, it's like Christmas has come again. I'm so excited. I love the Champions Cup. I love all of this. I mean, the URC is great. The Prem's great. They're fantastic competitions. But when that Champions Cup comes back, especially after what we saw in round two, most notably with Glasgow knocking over Toulouse, there's a lot to play for in round three for a lot of the big dogs going into this one. Obviously, rematch of last year's final, which is going to be an absolute cracker down in Bordeaux when the Northampton Saints travel down there. And we've got Leinster La Rochelle coming back around. So plenty going on. And as a Munster fan, we're back down to Toulon in desperate need of a win. So this is going to be, very, very busy few weeks here for us at Flow Rugby.
So, look, we're all about talking about games that are going to be happening, but first, let's we've got to address this here. The North South Derby had a classic this past week. 5-point match. Now, like I find it funny because sometimes you get these low scoring games in like American football and it's like, "Oh, this game sucks." And it's like the same people also like will complain about high scoring games because of no defense. Well, this was a 13-18 match in Cape Town. Hard hitting match. That stadium was packed. I think that might be the biggest crowd we'll get outside of a game that doesn't feature Leinster or Munster all year. I don't know how many people were there. I didn't get the final number, but
Mm.
uh, here's my thing though: the Stormers now have a 2-point lead on the Glasgow Warriors. Uh, Will the Stormers get the top spot in the URC after what you've seen over the last couple months?
Yeah, I'm very confident the Stormers will take number one in the table. I mean, they've also got a game in hand over the Warriors. So, if they do as we think they'll do and get another bonus point win, they're suddenly 7 points clear at the top of the table. And with quite a lot of a home run in, I mean, they've already played, beaten Munster, beaten Leinster. So those are two of the toughest ones. They've obviously got, Glasgow Warriors still to come. That's a huge match for them. But it's really hard to see where the Stormers lose again because the Bulls really put it up to them, and it was a great, great encounter. It was just one of those old school sort of South African derbies that I grew up watching in Cape Town and was such a big fan of those, North South, as you say there. Same with that Munster Leinster rivalry. I think it was in and around 54,000 at the Cape Town Stadium, which is a huge turnout. I think the Shark Tank had something similar when they played against the Bulls too. So, heck of a round. I think again, I just find it very hard to see anyone catching the Stormers at this stage, which is a huge advantage for them because if you want to do that final in Cape Town, I know Munster won the season two final down there, but it's not an easy place to go. I think on paper, the only two teams that I could see really beating them down there would be a fully locked and loaded Glasgow or Leinster. Outside of that, I don't see anyone else turning the Stormers over there.
Well, that was going to be my follow up question. Outside of Glasgow Leinster, is there another club that could enter that conversation? Because I think it's your guys. I think it's Munster that could
Mm.
enter that conversation as the third team. But is there someone we're missing?
Yeah, Munster are a hard one because just the drop off when they don't have their Irish internationals is quite significant. So they have to be really, fully locked and loaded. Ulster Rugby for me have been the biggest improvers this season, alongside Cardiff have been very good. But it's so hard outside of the Bulls putting it up to the Stormers or the Sharks putting it up just because of national pride. I can't really see anyone else in the URC getting close to the Stormers this year. I still put money on it, I would still kind of think Leinster are the favourites overall, just because when they're fully locked and loaded, they're a hell of a side. We haven't really seen the best Leinster team as of yet this season. So that would be the one team I really do think could go down there and beat the Stormers. But Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu, Damien Willemse, and the boys playing that way, Kubas Reinach in great form. Yeah, very hard to see anyone. I think outside of those sides, don't see anyone. Again, maybe locked and loaded Munster because they're so belligerent. They don't really mind where they go and play. But other than that, on a pure talent standpoint, only Leinster and Glasgow for me, really.
How much of an advantage is it for not just the Stormers, but also the Bulls and the Lions and the Sharks that a lot of the best players in the URC are going to be playing in the Six Nations starting
Mm.
next month, where obviously the South African teams don't really have to worry about that, right? Now
Mm.
there are some clubs in the URC that don't really have to worry about that as much as we do, but
Yeah.
the clubs that want to win the championship do. How much of an advantage is that? Because we have seen a lot of South African teams
Mm.
obviously host finals since they've joined the URC.
Yeah, no doubt. The Stormers hosted in the first two seasons. The Bulls had it last year. Oh, not last year, sorry, the season before. I think the Six Nations is really tough on the Irish URC teams in particular. Well, I mean all of the URC teams, but the Irish teams, the players are so well managed that you won't see a lot of them post the Six Nations for quite a few weeks because they'll be getting rested. The same with the Scots, I guess, too, to a certain extent. So there's a real chance for the South Africans to kind of push on. I know the games that were sort of rescheduled will go into that window too. Yeah, I think it all depends. Injuries is the biggest thing with the Six Nations. If Leinster lose, say, Joe McCarthy or Caelan Doris, how much of a difference does that make? It makes quite a big difference, even if they've got the depth to offset those players. The same for Munster. If Munster lose Ty Byrne, Jack Crowley, Craig Casey, they're probably cooked. So I think there's a big opportunity for the South Africans in terms of getting fit, getting healthy, and being ready to go from that, because Test rugby just takes so much out of the body. And that's why, again, I know Rassie Erasmus probably got in a bit of trouble for it before, but he said, why don't we get the Rugby Championship on at the same time as the Six Nations? It would be amazing. As you just touched on there, Joe, the fans in the stands at the URC, 54,000. South Africans love that summer rugby. I'm sure the Aussies and the Kiwis would love it too. So, I mean, my preference would be that the North play in the summer, but yeah, get
Well,
it all lined up. Yeah.
think about it, because if that game again, that Argentina South Africa game, if the Six Nations is going on, that match is probably played in Argentina instead of London, and so it's a kind of a, I don't know if it's a different game, but it's definitely more of an advantage for Argentina if that happens.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely. That was a strange one taking it to Twickenham. I understood because there's a huge expat contingent there, and when I was there, it was pretty good, but the stadium was still only half full. Whereas, like you said, Argentina would probably be kicking themselves for giving up that home game against the Box going into it. I know the scoreline was pretty close at the end too. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if they can get these seasons aligned. But I think on your original point, I think the biggest thing for the European URC teams is just don't lose players to injury. That's the biggest thing. You're going to lose a couple, but you just really don't want to lose some of your big hitters for long term injuries.
The other big match that really caught my eye this past weekend, Philip, was Northampton Saints versus the Harlequins. Now the Harlequins have had a little bit of success in the Champions Cup. They really pushed Leinster. They got demolished by a team that is looking like the absolute best team in Europe right now, in the
Mm.
Northampton Saints. 66-21. I know this game was in Northampton, but 66 points against a team. The Harlequins aren't great, but I mean, man, they just took it to them. We're halfway through the regular season. Is Northampton, like, are they the best team in Europe right now?
it's almost a joke how good they are at this stage and how quickly it kind of happened. Phil Dallas and Sam Vesti need to take so much credit for what they've built there, and it's such a young team, Joe, that they're only going to get better, and they seem to be keeping that main core together. I know George Furbank is meant to be going to Harlequins next season. I wonder if he'll be thinking about that decision after this weekend. But you know, I think so hard, right? We're going to have a real litmus test this week when they go to Bordeaux. If they go down and beat Bordeaux in Bordeaux, I think they win the Champions Cup. Because that's such a big test for them. Finn Smith, for me, I know he didn't get picked in the November series. George Ford was the first choice. For me, he's the best fly half in England. They've got Henry Pollock is obviously just going to another level, and Tommy Freeman is right up there as probably the best finisher in the world with, or in Europe at least, with Damien Penaud and Louis Bielbiaré. So they're just so well balanced, and it's so hard to see any gaps in their game. And every time you think that there might be a slight weakness, another young player comes and fills that. I mean, George Hendy could well be the next England fullback. He brings so much to the game, and he's just ripping off long runs, tries, setting people up. So just at the moment don't see a gap in the game. I think they identified the one issue against Bordeaux last year outside of the injuries they sustained with not having enough grunt up front, and they brought in JJ Van Amesh, who's a Springbok in the waiting, and he's kind of filled that gap for them. So at the moment, I don't see a gap in the Saints game. I think now I've shifted my opinion that I think the Saints will win the Prem this year. I'm very confident on that after what they did to Bath. I mean, if Bath are the closest competitor, so yeah.
So, yeah, what they did to Bath was in that second half. I mean, that was a 14-14 game. It's a classic. And then Northampton just blew the doors off of them. It was a lot like, it reminded me a lot of the Springbok All Blacks game in the summer. Uh, but obviously different level because it's a club. But I mean, it's like, wow. And yeah, I think the Saints just look outstanding.
Mm.
Bath did come back with a really nice win against Exeter, but that was a weird match because they scored 26 points in 22 minutes, and then they didn't score again. Bath did. Um, Interesting, they
Yeah.
still won the match. You to pick up the win, but yeah, I think this is Northampton Saints in the Prem all the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think what's really interesting about them, there's all this discussion around the law changes and is it slowing the game down and things like that. It doesn't really seem to have affected the Saints or the likes of Bordeaux or Toulouse. The kicking game is pinpoint with Finn Smith. Every time he kicks, it's contestable. He knows where his back three are when they're going in the air. I think they've been so clever on how they've used these law changes, but still kept their expansive game plan. So, yeah, hugely impressed with the Saints, and they are the odds-on favourites for the Prem now. And like I said, if they go down and win in Bordeaux this week, I think they win the Champions Cup. I think it's very hard to see anyone getting them if they have that home run through to the final.
We're halfway through the URC and Prem seasons. They get 2 weeks off because of Champions Cup play. So, like, let's check on some awards races. Now, first, like, Philip, in the States, we get about halfway through the basketball season and the baseball season, and then we have the All Star game, right? That's like the halfway point. In the NFL, we have, we play our All Star games at the end of the year with the Pro Bowl, and it sucks. It's terrible. Like, the Pro Bowl is worthless. But it's a big deal in the NBA and MLB halfway mark. So we've got this pause. We just finished round 9.
Mm-hmm.
So who is your Prem All Star and Prem URC teams right now?
No problem. Yeah, go with the Prem first because it was really interesting. There's a few controversial calls in here, and I'm sure people will let me know if they don't agree with my team. But basis of what I've done here, Joe, is looked at the team that I would think if I pick it now that no team will beat them in that respective one. So really just the best players I could think of right now in those positions. So starting with the Prem team, I've gone with my loose head prop being Ellis Genge at Bristol. I think he's just gone to another level again since that Lions tour. So Ellis Genge slots into the number 1 shirt for me there. At hooker, this is where the biggest decision came in, and I'll probably get killed for this because he's only really the 3rd choice, I think, at England at the moment, and that's Theo Dan of Saracens. I just think he's been so good this season, so explosive, and in a world where, the likes of Dan Sheehan and Malcolm Marks are really dominant, Theo Dan could be that for England, I believe. So he's been my number 2. Tight head prop was a trickier one, but kind of came down to two Bath tight heads, and I went with Thomas du Toit, the Springbok star. Just such a phenomenal player. Could play both sides of the scrum, but has really settled in to being in the tight head. And next season, he'll probably be in my URC dream team because he signed for the Sharks. So good to get Thomas in there. And, no bias because we interviewed him at the Champions Cup final, the Challenge Cup final. There's no bias here.
The
But
Sharks
yeah.
could use him.
Oh, yeah. That Sharks front row next year of Oxnishé and Thomas du Toit as your two props, frightening times for everybody. Going into the second row, I've gone at number 4, JJ Van Amesh, who I touched on just there with Northampton. I think Van Amesh has brought that really big physical grunt to the Saints. They were already a physical team, but they kind of fly around the place. They've now got a guy in Van Amesh who can just go direct, brings a huge amount of power to their scrum. So gone with the giant South African at number 4, which has meant a slight position change for my number 5, who is Maro Itoje, the Saracens and England captain. So I've shifted Maro from 4 to 5. I think he's just constantly gets, I think he's been so good for so long that people almost want change, but he is just that good. So I've kept him there at number 5. We're shifting to the back row. Number 6 on this one, Joe. I've kind of bent the rules a little bit. I've gone with a hybrid player in Alex Coles from the Northampton Saints. Now, he plays second row and back row. And personally, I think he's better at 6 than he is in the second row. So I've gone with him there. And just really supersizing our pack here for the big battle with our URC All-Stars. And joining him in the back row, Saints teammate Henry Pollock. There was the only one answer there. I'm sure people might not be impressed with that, but whatever about his antics and the things he does, I personally think it's great, but he's just such a good player. He backs it up. So I've gone with Henry Pollock
You
at number
need
7.
charismatic players like him in the
Oh, yeah.
game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's basically every NFL player is like that. So I don't know how we're so worried about it. I think he's great for the game. Completing our back row, I've gone with Tom Willis, number 8 from Saracens. I think he's so good, and I think he's a huge loss to English rugby next season. He's signed for Bordeaux, so he's going back down there to join his brother Jack, who plays at Toulouse in the top 14. Ironically, probably the best number 8 in the top 14. So those Willis boys they've been bred well, those two. So he is my number 8, rounding out the pack. Shifting to the back line, I have gone with an All Saints halfback combination of Alex Mitchell at scrum half, so wearing number 9, and Finn Smith at number 10. I think those two just dovetail so nicely together. You've got the incredible passing game and kicking of Alex Mitchell, but also that really intelligent running game, knowing when to snipe, when to sort of threaten defenses. Takes a lot of pressure off his back line. So I've gone with him at 9, and then Finn Smith, as I said, in my opinion, he's the best English 10. I think he's such a good balance of George Ford and Marcus Smith in terms of he's got that playmaking ability. He can run. He's more physical than both of them defensively. And I think he's the future of the number 10 position for England. So I've gone with him at number 10. In the centres, I try to get a bit of balance. I brought Ollie Lawrence, who I know plays 13 quite a lot, but I brought him to inside centre, where I've seen him perform really well there too. So Ollie Lawrence from Bath Rugby is just big physical ball carrier. But what I think people underestimate with Ollie Lawrence is he's just so skillful. He's got a clever little kicking game, and he's super physical, as we said, at the line of contact, but he can get that ball away nicely, and he's worked so well with Finn Russell so far, who actually has been edged out by Finn Smith, obviously, in this team. And then outside him, I have Henry Slade, who's just like an ageless wonder, just stays world class all the time, similar to Maro. So I've gone with Exeter Chiefs Henry Slade at 13, and he gives us a secondary goal kicker, a secondary tactical kicker outside of Finn Smith, which gives us a bit of balance in that back line. And then in my back 3, I have tried to balance what I think could be the future England back 3 with Emmanuel Feiruboso from Exeter Chiefs, just such a phenomenal player, great in the air, but really dangerous with ball in hand. And of course, that lethal finisher, Tommy Freeman, on the right wing at number 14. So I know Freeman and Feiruboso both tend to play on the right wing, but I've shifted Emmanuel Feiruboso over there. They can switch if they want, however they want to do it. And then rounding out the team at fullback, I've gone with Hendy, as I said, from Northampton. George Hendy, I just think he's so talented. And for me, I really think he's the next England fullback. I think he has everything. I think he's got the aerial skills of Freddie Stewart. He's got the pace of any of the back 3 players. He's got a good kicking game. So that is my Premiership dream team. So feel free to pick it apart, anyone, if you want to. But yeah, that's what I've gone with so far.
I guess my big thing was, how close were you to adding Henry, our young teenage sensation for Saracens, to this team? Because I think he's definitely probably one of the leader for Rookie of the Year in the Prem right now.
Yeah, Noah Kaluri is just something else.
Yeah,
I think he's really good, but I just don't think he has the body of work behind him. And the one time that he did get it really put up to him was against the Northampton Saints, and he struggled. But he's only 19. I mean, he's going to be just. I think he's going to be a world class winger. He's got everything going for him, and he's in the perfect environment at Saracens to really kick on. So he was close. He was close. There was also Tom Roebuck at Sale Sharks, who starts for England, was really close for me too, just because he's so good in the air. But I thought for pure excitement, I went with Freeman and Faye Bosa there.
yeah. I think that is definitely the All Star team. Your pick. I mean, Noah's gonna make some All Star teams in his career, and you know what? He can have a big game this week against Toulouse if he wants. But yeah, I agree with your picks. What about the URC?
Yeah, URC. Now this was fun because obviously when you're looking at the Prem, there's 10 teams, but you're mainly looking at a lot of English players there, and there's some great players who didn't make that team. Santi Carreras from Argentina and players like that. But I'm looking at my team here with the URC. I went with our boy. I think you and I are the biggest proponents. Ox Nuche, number one on the loose head shirt for us. Just, I mean, for us, he would have been World Player of the Year, I think, Joe. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there. Such a
I would have.
world class player.
Yeah, I would have put him as the World Player of the Year. I watched the Sharks this week, and he was there. I mean, that's the guy you want to be your power player. I mean, he's so good.
So good. And I think, if we're countering Thomas Tutoy, who's the tight head for that Prem team, Oxniche is the one player I think could do it. So I've gone with him there. At hooker, this was the most obvious one for me. Dan Sheehan, Leinster star, Ireland star, best hooker in the world alongside Malcolm Marks, in my opinion. Hasn't fully hit his straps yet, coming back from sort of the Lions tour and a few different injuries and niggles. So, but yeah, world class when he's on. I've gone tight head. I've gone Tyke Furlong. Now, this was really tight. And I've kind of gone with Furlong on the basis of how good of a ball player he is. He's a phenomenal scrummager. He's been, at one point or another, probably the best tight head in the world. That, he's still right up there. Vilko Lowe from the Vodacom Bulls was my runner-up, and Xander Ferguson of Glasgow Warriors was my third choice there. But for me, I've gone Tyke Furlong. So that's two Leinster players in the front row to go with Big Ox Dishe from the Sharks.
And
And then in the
it's
second,
good to get Furlong
yeah.
on this team because he has been through it injury wise, and for him
Mm,
to
mm.
bounce back and to have as strong a season as he's having is really good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people forget, in terms of the mileage of what he's done for Ireland and for Leinster over the last decade, wear and tear was always going to come. And I think for the next World Cup, it's so important that his minutes are managed and that he's there in 2027 for Ireland, because there's still a big gap between him and the next batch of tight heads in Irish rugby. So backing that dynamic trio up, I have Erchius Snyman from Leinster, and he is partnering Tadhg Beirne, Munster rugby captain. And I would argue this is the best second row combination in the world. If it was, should still be at Munster, but Snyman is now at Leinster. Eben Etzbeth therefore misses out on this one, and I that was really tough for me. But Eben, he's obviously great with the Springboks, but really with the Sharks, I just never really see it that much. It's the same
Well,
as what Siak.
Well, if this was reality, and we did have an All Star game, he wouldn't be able to play in it anyway. So I
Sure.
think you've got a backup there. Simon obviously is interesting because, as we've talked about before on this podcast, he's so good off the bench that he does not
Mm.
start for a lot of teams. He does not start a lot for the Springboks or Leinster, but then he comes in and he is like the ultimate closer there.
Yeah, I agree. He's found that role as the ultimate bomb squad member, right? He's just so powerful, slipping those offloads when defenders are a bit tired, using that sort of high leverage he has on everybody, and obviously super good in the line out and super dynamic at scrum time. So yeah, I think we got a nice balance there. And Byrne for me, really should have been shortlisted for World Player of the Year. I'm not saying he should have been ahead of Malcolm Marks, who I think was really deserving of the winning, but I think he should have at least been nominated. So I've gone with him here. We're making up for it. I'm sure it means a lot to him to hear this, being made up for. So, um, and then in my back row, I try to go for a bit of balance here, and I know this will get a bit of controversy across. So I'm ready for it. I've gone with Cormac Izachuku of Ulster, who I just think has been probably one of the very form players in the URC so far from an Irish perspective. He's able to play second row and back row, and similar to Alex Coles, I think his best position is at number 6 rather than number 5. So I've pushed him to the back row, and he's going to be another line-out option for us here. And joining him is who I actually think has been the breakout star this season, Paul de Villiers from the DHL Stormers. Springbok in a waiting, and what I love about him is he's like an old school throwback to just one of those groundhog turnover machines, very similar to Heinrich Brousseau from that sort of 2008 to 2011 Springbok team. Such a low center of gravity, impossible to get off the ball when he's over it, but he's so smart. And one of the big things I love in a back row, there's no whinging, there's no complaining. You see him getting blasted off the ball, doesn't even look at the referee, just bounces up and looks for the next breakdown. So I've shifted him into the number 7 jersey. For anyone who goes, oh, he's a number 6, he's not. South Africans play their back rows in different shirts, so that's why he's at number 7 for us, and he's our blind side there. So open side, sorry, on that one. And then I've got Caelan Doris at number 8. That was a pretty obvious choice for me. I think if Cameron Hanekom of the Vodacom Bulls was fit and firing, I'd have a question. Ivan Ruiz, I'm a big fan of him from the DHL Stormers, but nobody gets close to Caelan Doris, really, in my opinion. So that's our pack there. So I think that's going to be a pretty good shootout with that Prem pack. Shifting to the back line, arguably the best scrum half in the world outside of a certain Frenchman called Antoine Dupont. We got Jamison Gibson Park at 9, and he has linking up with Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu in what would be a lethal halfback combination. And if I'm picking where the difference between these two teams are, that is where it's at. It's just probably one of the best 9s in the world and one of the best 10s in the world. So yeah, that's my halfback pairing, and good luck to anyone defending that, is what I would say. The centres, I went with Sione Tuipulotu from the Glasgow Warriors, the Scottish captain. For me, one of the elite centres in the world, possibly the best 12 in the world at the moment, and he is joined by Tommaso Menoncello, another elite centre, and I had to get him in this year because he is off to Toulouse next season. I think that centre combination can interchange. Both players can play 12 and 13, gives you plenty of versatility there. Hugh Jones has been out injured for so long that he was sort of my runner-up, and Gary Ringrose has, in my opinion, dropped off a little bit in his attacking game. So that is my centre combination. Then in the back 3, we are going with a pair of World Cup winners. So we've got Kurtley Arnsa on the right wing, Damien Willemse at fullback, and then joining them, a very controversial decision here, Jacob Stockdale from Ulster Rugby.
We
Just
love
for
Jacob
me,
Stockdale.
we love Jacob Stockdale at FloRugby. The guy is phenomenal, and he's been so good in the URC. I really believe he deserves a run for Ireland, but that was possibly the hardest position for me, because when you look across the league, every team pretty much has a good number 11 when you're looking at it. Even Stockdale's own teammate, Zach Ward, is phenomenal. Leinster have JJ Kenny coming through. He's really, really great. The Stormers, Leland Zass is a really good player. So anywhere you look, there's just world-class players, but I went with Stockdale. So that is my URC team. No doubt lots of people will disagree with me, but ultimately, Joe, you gave me too much power here as the overall czar of the fantasy teams, and that's what I've gone with.
Well, I'm going to give you some more power here because I think it would be really fun. Uh, both of these leagues, they stream on Flow Rugby. We could do it. We could figure it out. I'd love for us to have an All Star game played. And my question to you is: in this All Star game, uh, where would they have to play this game? Because now my thing is you could put it in the hands of the players. And unfortunately, South Africa wouldn't have a hand in this, but most of them would. Whichever country wins the triple crown of the Six Nations would host the URC Prem All Star matchup
Oh,
in the
yeah, I
national
like that.
stadium. Is that
Yeah.
is that what you think they should do, or do you have a
Yeah.
certain stadium that you'd like this game to play in?
Yeah, I mean, Croke Park's phenomenal. Personally, the Millennium State Principality, sorry, I should say, in Cardiff is my favourite stadium, Murrayfield. So three great venues there. Obviously, the Aviva Stadium is Ireland's usual home ground, but for me, Croke Park's a far better stadium in terms of just the size. You know what, Joe? World Rugby are trying to push rugby in the US. Flow Rugby's based in the US. There are some pretty phenomenal NFL grounds. Would we go to Dallas? Would we go to Dallas? What are we thinking?
All right, no, I'm thinking we put them in Austin, Texas. Come on down. Let's
Yeah,
play in Darrell Royal Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas.
there we
That is
go.
the actual name of that stadium. Uh, let's have it play. It can be the Flow Rugby Bowl. We get the All Star game here. You know, we're hosting. The U.S. is hosting the World Cup here in 2031. Bring them down. Everyone can get some Flow Sports swag if we do this. I love it. I like your thinking there, Philip. Come on over to the
It
United
would be
States.
our content would be fire if
Oh yeah.
everyone has to come and do interviews.
To put a bow on this, before we start talking about the Champions Cup, real quick here. Who's your coach of the year in both the Prem and the URC? For me, I think it's Richie Murphy of Ulster and it's Rob Baxter of Exeter. But who are your coaches of the year?
Yeah, no, those are two really solid choices. I'm just going to be different for the sake of it because Richie Murphy, for me in particular, is one of the a real contender. I'm going to go with John Dobson because when you look at where the Stormers were last year and what Dobbo's done with them this year and what he's done in the past with them, I'm going to go with him on this. I just think it's so incredible how quickly they've turned things around in Cape Town. So, and from Munster perspective, I think Clayton McMillan's brought a really good backbone, but Munster have teetered off a little bit in the last few weeks. So John Dobson for me at the URC. I think Phil Dowson at Northampton. I mean, the reason I mean, Rob Baxter is a great choice because, again, similar to the Stormers, he's turned things around real quick down in Exeter and he's got a track record of success. But I just think what Phil Dowson has done at the Saints with really a young team is just incredible. So for me, my two choices are John Dobson and Phil Dowson at the moment.
I did the most like American sports thing ever. Instead of just rewarding like the best coach in the league, I reward the coach who's like doing the most with the lowest expectations. I hate
Yeah.
that personally, but I know what Richie's building in Ulster. We talk about it a lot with that young club, and I think he's probably the best coach in the world when it comes to developing young players,
Mm,
because that's what he did before he got the Ulster job. And I just think the way Exeter has bounced back, but then again, like Rob Baxter might have been the least valuable coach last year because of how bad Exeter plays. So there's that.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't it Kevin Stefanski got coach of the year, didn't he? At one point.
Kevin
The
Stefanski
Browns
has
just weren't terrible.
won two coaches of the year just because it was so amazing that the Browns even made the playoffs. Hold on. For the listeners here, I am from Cincinnati and I went to college near Cleveland. Most of my friends are Browns fans and I hear it all the time and I just do not understand why Kevin Stefanski would be one of the top leading coaching candidates. Yeah, so I don't understand the Kevin Stefanski love, but what I do understand is we've got some wild top 14 stuff. Real quick on the top 14, we're not going to name their entire All Star team because we'll probably just pick a lot of Toulouse, Poe,
Yeah.
and Bordeaux players.
Yeah.
But we're about halfway through on the top 14. Poe is by far the story of the year because they
Mm.
stay up there. Can they topple Toulouse? Because that's who they play when they come back from Champions Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good question, Joe. And I think it kind of heightens why people are so disappointed with what they did in the Champions Cup because you look at what they're doing in the top 14 and the talent's there, right? So I think when they get back, they certainly can challenge Toulouse because I would imagine Toulouse are now going to go locked and loaded for those two Champions Cup games because they know they have to win them to really have any good seeding. So will they rotate their squad and then go down to that Po team and get ambushed? I could certainly see it happening. I think they've definitely been the story of the top 14 so far this season, like Bayonne were last season. So, yeah, really, really solid team and coming together right at the right time. I think they could overturn Toulouse. But the top 14 is just wild. I mean, Toulouse beat La Rochelle by 60 points, and then La Rochelle beat Toulon by 60 points the next week. It's so hard to predict what's going to go on there.
Who's your first half MVP for top 14?
Good question. It's There's been some really interesting underrated performances, I think, going on. I always think Max Lucu is such a good player down at Bordeaux, and because he plays scrum half and in France, Antoine Dupont is always the king there. So he might not quite get the recognition he deserves, I guess. But again, the tricky thing is teams have been so inconsistent. Really, you've got to be looking at probably Toulouse players. I would go Thomas Ramos.
We don't have to go through the entire top 14 All-Star team unless you want to, but do you know who would be, put it this way, who's your number 8 on that team and who's your captain?
Yeah, yeah. Number eight's an interesting position to go with. I'd probably go Jack Willis again. I just think when Jack Willis is fit and firing, that Toulouse pack go to another level. He would be my number eight if I'm picking a top 14 dream team. I probably could roll through a team on that, but I think if I'm going to go with a captain, ooh, that's a really good question straight off the bat. Julian Montoya. There we go.
There we go.
Argentina
He,
captain, yeah.
I mean, he joins Poe, and all of a sudden they're unbeatable. And of course, he has the most captain. I think he's been the longest serving captain for Argentina there is. That's a good choice.
Pretty good choice, right? Yeah, he had the RD effect, as we call after what Salvia did with Moana Pacifica. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, now I have been holding you back. You have been like a bull in the chute, ready to go out. Dang it, Philip, we're ready to talk Champions Cup round 3. Here we
Come on,
go. We get to preview it.
here we
We
go.
love Champions Cup. It's, some people, they don't think it's the top competition. It's not a domestic league. We love it. We have been missing it for a month. And then after these next 2 weeks, we're going to miss it until April. It's back here. This is where we disagree, though, because I know that the best game this weekend is Bordeaux and Northampton. I know that. I know that I am a shill for Toulouse. I talk about them all the time. I think I have named them the team. I think I've named them the game of the week almost like every round. I understand it. I get it. My game of the week, it's Saracens and Toulouse. I love that
Ooh,
matchup. I love that matchup. I know how good Bordeaux and Northampton's going to be, but look, Toulouse 2 weeks ago lost in Glasgow in probably the best rugby game that you'll watch. We have the replay on Flow Rugby. I suggest everyone go watch that. That match was awesome. I love this game against Saracens because A, it's in Saracens, which means Toulouse has to bring it over to England, but also, we've got we got the current and two other former English captains on Saracens. We've got a 19-year-old Sensatia and Noah Kalari for Saracens. And then, of course, Toulouse, they're not going to sit their top team. They're bringing them over to London, right? So,
mm.
that's my argument for why I love this matchup.
Yeah, I think Saris will be going, oh, thanks very much, Glasgow. Look at what you've sent us over here. It's like grabbing a wasp nest and just shaking it. It's like, see what happens. Someone else could deal with it. Literally, I think Toulouse, maybe losing to Glasgow was probably the best thing that could have happened to them because now that complacency is gone. They can't afford to be slightly off. I know Saris have really kind of dropped off recently, but I agree. This is such a fascinating matchup, right? Because for Toulouse, if Saracens are in this match with sort of 10, 15 minutes to go, is there something in the back of their mind that goes, oh, we might lose two pool games here? You know, could that happen? And Saracens have more than enough experience to make it happen. Maro Toji's back now. You look across that team, Owen Farrell, Elliot Daly, there's loads of experience there. So, yeah, really interesting match. And if we're not allowed to pick Bordeaux and Northampton as the game of the week, there's another cracker in La Rochelle travelling over to Dublin to face Leinster. Just the right time, having put 60 points on too long. So, Be another cracking match.
I'll say this. This is the game of the week for Joe Harrington. All right. I'm not a crazy man. I am still very well aware that the Champions Cup rematch between Northampton and UBB is the game of the week. I understand that. I just I love stars, and boy, does the Saracens Toulouse have a ton of stars in it.
Yeah, no, it's a really good matchup. It's going to be really interesting. Like you said, when our top 100 list comes out, there will be quite a few players from those two teams. So yeah, plenty to keep an eye on there for sure.
All right, so who clinches a spot in the knockout stage? Pretty obvious. Who when they're in for they don't have to worry about round four.
Yeah, so the winner of UBB and Northampton, obviously, they take that. So that whoever takes that one will be in there. It's all quite again, it's quite tight this year, isn't it? When you look at it, I guess pretty much all of the teams going in there with two wins this season, they're the ones who'll be clinching. I guess when you look at it, it's so tricky, right? Because I think Glasgow for me, expect Glasgow to go down and win in Claremont, but could they lose in Claremont? You never know. And that for me, they're the most obvious choice to claim their top spot. The Stormers have to go and play Harlequins, which is on face value. If both teams were fit and firing, it's not a contest. The Stormers absolutely destroy them, but I would suspect they might have to balance their squad. I'm not too sure. So I think I'm going to back the Stormers. Let's back the Stormers to go up there and beat the Harlequins. I think Leinster beat La Rochelle, in my opinion. So I think Leinster secured their spot. And I think Bristol Bears, have they got to play the Bulls this week, don't they? That'll be an interesting matchup. Um, oh gosh, that's actually
If the Bulls want to make it interesting, it's an interesting matchup.
that's a very good point. If the Bulls want to make it interesting, I suspect they probably will. Because I think they know that they have to win to get. They have to win to have any chance of going through. But yeah, I think Bristol could go down and win there. Bristol could go. So I guess okay. Let's put a bow on this. DHL Stormers, Leinster Rugby, and Glasgow Warriors are the three teams I feel very confident will secure their places in the knockouts.
Who do you think's going to need a big round four to get into the knockout stage?
I'm afraid to say it might be my Munster team. That Toulon match is very tough. You know what? I think Bath lose too this week. I think Bath lose down in Cast. I think Cast just are so hard to beat at home, and they've actually got a really good squad. So, and everything Bath do well, Cast are quite good in terms of physically up front. So, yeah, I think we could go into that final round with, say, Bath needing a win, maybe Munster or Toulon needing a win, Cass needing a win. That could be the weirdest group because I'm looking at it right now, and Bath have 6 points, and last place Edinburgh have 5 points. So that's wide open. That pool is just crazy.
If
I'm hoping
we
it's not Munster. I think it's
well,
Munster.
unfortunately, they're in the same pool, so it's not like they can't both make the Challenge Cup. But if we're entering the playoffs of the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup without Bath or Munster in either of those, something's wrong. Something needs to change if that's the case. But you know what? These are the rules that we're handed.
True, true. And Joe, could you ever, I could see a world where Edinburgh somehow sneak out and, take top spot in that pool. Who knows? It's yeah, all pretty wild, all pretty open in that group. Because when you look at all the other groups, right, like there's pretty clearly defined top two teams in the other groups. You got your Stormers and Leinster in group three. Pool four, you've got Northampton and Bordeaux, and obviously I know Bristol are undefeated too, but those two are way ahead. And then you look in the other group, you got Glasgow and Toulouse with Sarries probably the third team in that group. So yeah, that pool two is wild.
I think an underrated game. I don't know if it will have much of an impact on anything, but I think an underrated game that I am looking forward to this round, the Shark Attack. It's Shark Week at Flow. I love it. Hollywood Bet Sharks versus the Sail Sharks. Philip, I'm I can be an idiot sometimes, but I know that both of those teams aren't world class right now, and I know Evan's not going to be playing for the Sharks, and but still, I love that matchup. Um, I don't know how you write about that game without being super confusing or without using Jaws puns, but you know what? You're gonna need a bigger streaming service. You're gonna need to subscribe to Flow Rugby to watch the Shark Attack.
Yeah, I almost think I can't preview that match because I think I will confuse myself when I'm doing it. Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be something else. Yeah, that's actually a fun match, isn't it? When you think about it, because when you think about what Sale did, they went down and beat Claremont away, didn't they? After losing the opening round to Glasgow, so they're still in with the running. And then the Hollywood Bet Sharks down in Durban beat Saracens, so both teams are still in with a chance of knockout rugby. So yeah, that adds a little bit of an extra layer to it.
Before we get to our picks for the Champions Cup, I'm just gonna throw it out here. Maybe perhaps the best game of the weekend, at least one that's going to have some major eyeballs here, is we have a matchup between Stade Francois and Exeter, and that is two teams that would be in their domestic league playoffs. Two teams I think that are both in the top three
Mm,
of their domestic leagues.
yeah.
Exeter obviously coming off the big loss to Bath. But Stade Francois, another team that is bouncing back huge like Exeter, because they didn't have a good year last year in the top 14, but they look like they're going to make the top four. Um, that's a pretty good matchup for the old Challenge Cup, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great mix, great matchup between two sides, like you said, have kind of really bounced back after what were down seasons for them last year. And it's an interesting one because when you look at it on paper, what both teams do quite well, they actually match up quite nicely on that in terms of they're both sort of physical packs who kind of go toe to toe, but then have plenty of pace and power in the back line. So actually, it could be the game of the week in the Challenge Cup for sure, and it certainly rivals most of the Champions Cup matches, bar probably the big three that we said there. In terms of Leinster, La Rochelle, Toulouse, playing Saris, and then of course that big UBB versus Saints matchup. I think that Stade Francais versus Exeter Chiefs game is right there with them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're here. Now we're picking games. All right. We're picking 12 games. The 12 Champions Cup matches this weekend. It all starts on Friday. We've got Pool 2 matches that'll kick off the weekend. 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Cast is hosting Bath. Both of these teams have one loss and one win. Pretty big matchup. Philip, I can't take Cast. I'm taking Bath in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to split with you. I think Bath are obviously favourites, but I don't know if they're far enough in their journey to be winning down in France. I just think Cast are so hard away. As a Munster fan, I see it nearly every season with them for some reason. So I'm going to go with Cast for the upset in this one, and I think they put their Bath Champions Cup campaign on life support.
Man, they would put Bath in quite the situation with two losses there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, the two teams that stunned us in round one with wins play each other in Edinburgh, Scotland. We have Edinburgh versus Gloucester. Uh, Really fun match because I think that this is a match for I mean, shoot, it could be for the third spot in this pool, not just the fourth spot, but definitely a lot riding on this with both of these teams with one loss and one win. Uh, I am taking Edinburgh. There's no way I'm picking against a team that is hosting a match in Scotland.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with you, Edinburgh, all the way on this one for sure, Joe.
All right, that match is at 3 p.m. on Friday. We move into Saturday at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. So, wake up, uh, dress the kiddos, feed them some pancakes. All right, skip the Mickey Mouse Club. That's what we're watching now. So, a lot of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, a lot of cars. Skip that. Instead, let's turn on the Vodacom Bulls, who they need two wins. They need to sweep these last two rounds to make the knockout stage, in my opinion. They're hosting the Bristol Bears at Loftus Verisfield. There in Pretoria. Me, I am taking the Bulls in this one. I think that they are going to play some desperate. Also, like they just lost the North South Derby match. I think they're going to be really. They're either going to get absolutely blown out in this match because of that hangover of losing the North South Derby, or they're going to come out and try to make the knockout stage.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is predicated on the Bulls picking their best team. I think the Bulls in Pretoria win this one. Um, but would I be shocked if Bristol went down there and turned them over? I wouldn't because Bristol have been so good this season. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Vodacom Bulls here on this one.
All right, 10:15 a.m. a few hours later in France, in my favorite stadium in club rugby, Clermont at the Stade Marcel Michelin. They are hosting the Glasgow Warriors. Both of these teams have completely different records. Glasgow 2-0, Clermont a shocking 0-2. I am going to drop them to 0-3. I am picking the
Oh.
Glasgow Warriors are rolling through this. I think Glasgow might get the top spot uh, in the Champions Cup. And you know that if they get the top spot in the Champions Cup, they could make the final. I'm going with Glasgow in this match.
Yeah, Glasgow have been super, super impressive. Oh, I just can't see a world where Claremont don't get into these knockout stages this year with the squad they have. Oh, for a bit of fun, I'm going to back the home team. Let's go with Claremont. I can see Glasgow. I can see a clear route for Glasgow winning here, but I think Claremont at home. I think they're going to take it.
All right, our next match here. All right, 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. I have a note that I say the person I'm picking to win this match is going to win by 4 tries. This is because, and this is, and I'll pick this up with Claremont. Claremont has been really disappointing this year for me. They've not been great in top 14. Well, guess what? La Rochelle has been really disappointing. They have not been great in top 14 play. So here we go. And I know that they just beat a team by like a gazillion points in top 14. I understand that. Leinster, by 4 tries, dominates La Rochelle in Dublin at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. I'm calling it. I know that this is an interesting match. I know this is a match that is a replay of two finals we've had. I think Leinster just demolishes them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Leinster take this one too, and I think they take it relatively comfortably. As we said, the top 14 is just wild because teams just send their second team on the road. So I don't know how much we can read into La Rochelle beating Toulon by 66 points to nil. A week removed from losing by like 60 points themselves to Toulouse. So yeah, give me Leinster in this one. I actually think Leinster are going in the right direction. As much as it pains me to say as a Munster fan, I think they're building the right way this time through the season.
We've talked about it. It's like Leinster has probably picked too early in the past seasons, but they're peaking at the right time. I think the Six Nations stuff is really going to throw them off and it's going to scrap them, but I think it's going to help Ireland. I think Ireland's going to win the Six Nations because of how well I'm seeing Leinster play. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Leinster wins this. Okay, here we go. The Shark Attack. Philip, have you had the enjoyment with a child of watching Baby Shark yet?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, Robbie's a bit more of a dingle dangle scarecrow boy at this stage at 5.5 months, but yeah, he's seen a bit of Baby Shark already. He's that lovely, very repetitive tune. Yeah.
Okay, well now I've got to figure out Dingle Dairy Scarecrow. What channel is that on?
Oh
Can I
no,
get
don't
that
even worry
on?
about
Okay, well
it.
I'm gonna tell my wife about this, and I'm gonna have to find it. Uh, a loyal subscriber to the streaming service BritBox is my wife. Okay, I love the Hollywood Bet Sharks. Everyone knows that. I love Oxniche, but unfortunately, I don't think they're going to win in Sale this weekend. I think the Sale Sharks, George Ford with his Mojo Coffee, he's going to be up for this match. I think that Sale wins us.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I don't see a route to victory for the Hollywood Bet Sharks. I mean, they had another loss this time at home to the Emirates Lions and the last time out in the URC, and I just don't see them sending their best team there. And that Sale Sharks team have already proven they can win big. And we talk about how good Glasgow were. Sale kind of went toe to toe with them for quite a lot of that match, right? So yeah, I think Sale take this one.
This match is at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. Both of these teams have one win and one loss. Obviously, the Hollywood Bet Sharks beat the Saracens, who I think is really good, but we all know the Saracens did not bring their A team down to Durban. Um, I don't know if the Hollywood Bet Sharks are going to bring their top team. If they do, they
Mm.
certainly have a chance, but I think Sale's going to win this.
Yeah, and I think the loser should have to change their name so we don't have to deal with this every season. So
I mean,
you'll be
at least change it to a different type of fish, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
okay, here's the thing. There are some fierce fish out there
Yeah,
that you could still nickname the team. The loser of this team, I'm saying, has to change their name to, let's say, the swordfish.
that's pretty
There's
good. I like
right.
the
That's
swordfish.
one. The tunas. I don't know. Is there
Barracudas,
a tuna up there? The
barracudas.
barracudas. What is the most common fish in the North Sea?
God. Yeah, cod maybe
Cod.
the
There
sail
we
the
go.
sail cod.
The
Yeah,
sail
that
cod.
might
The
have.
Hollywood bet. The Hollywood bets cods is perfect.
Yeah, I think the Hollywood Bet Sharks have a lucky. They're lucky that there's some pretty cool fish off Durban. So yeah, we'll see how we go.
And before you ask, yes, we will definitely clip that out for social media. What what should they change their name to? I liked it. Hollywood bet cods. All right.
Yeah.
Next game, Saturday, 3 o'clock on Saturday in the great country of Wales. We have the Scarlets versus the second best team in France right now, Po. Here's my hot take, though. Both of these teams are 0-2, and I think one team has already said we do not care about the Champions Cup. I think the Scarlets win this match in a stunner. I think they win it.
Oh,
I think Poe says we are saving ourselves for our match against Toulouse in 2 weeks. That's the match we care about. Not saying that in a vacuum that Poe wouldn't beat the Scarlets by 4 tries. That probably would. I just think Poe is seeing that match against Toulouse when they come back from Champions Cup. They got a big circle out it. I think the Scarlets know that a win here could probably be the difference between them not making and making the Challenge Cup. There it is. The Welsh. I'm with you.
that's a good call. That's a good call. Yeah, it really does come down to who Poe pick here because could Poe do it where they look at it and go, oh, we have to win this round to stay in and go into the final round with a chance, or are they going to do what you're saying, which is probably far more likely with most French teams and go, oh, we're just going to get rid of this and focus on the top 14. I'm going to go with the positive here. I think Poe go over there. I think they beat the Scarlets, and then I think they beat the Vodacom Bulls at home in the final round, and they sneak their way into the last 16, Joe. That's what I'm going to go with.
All right. Well, you know what? The people of Wales can send their complaints to Philip. I believe in
Yeah,
them.
fair, fair, fair.
All right. Last game on Saturday is actually the same time as the Scarlets Poe game, and that is the matchup of, in my opinion, the two most disappointing teams of the Champions Cup
Mm,
through 2 rounds. The Leicester Tigers are hosting Bayonne. Man, I had such high hopes for Bayonne, and then they lost at home in that match to the Stormers, who I picked to win it all. So it's like I'm not going to hold it against them. But then again, they had so many chances to
mm,
win that round one match, and then they lose the next week. The Leicester Tigers really pushed Leinster in one of those games, but obviously did not care about the game against La Rochelle. One of these teams has got to win this one, or they're not going to make a knockout stage, in my opinion.
yeah,
I am taking the home team. I am taking Leicester,
yeah, I agree with you. I think the Tigers get it done here for sure. They know they have to.
and the Tigers. The thing I always say about them is, man, they like always make the knockout stage. It would be so weird not having them in the Champions Cup. But as you pointed out, I think at the start of this whole thing, I mean, if Leicester's in the Challenge Cup, they could win it all.
They certainly could. And I mean, they've got the DHL Stormers away in the final round. They're not going to go down and win in Cape Town, I don't think. So I think they need the win right to even get through to the Challenge Cup. So I think they'll do that, and I think they'll go into the Challenge Cup.
Okay, so move into the final day of round three. We're back waking up early, folks. Okay, so on Saturday, we woke up, we dressed the kiddo, we fed him pancakes, and we skipped Mickey Mouse Club to watch that game on Sunday, same time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm in the Central Time Zone, so this is 7 a.m. for me. We are once again skipping the normal routine, and we are putting the Harlequins and the DHL Stormers on the television. The Stormers, my pick to win it all, are 2-0 in this competition. Uh, Kind of surprisingly 2-0 because they've won some matches very close, and they won on the road in France, which I didn't see them actually doing. Um, this is in Twickenham Stoop. This is against the Quins. Of course, I'm picking the Stormers. Why would I not pick the Stormers? Of course, they're going to win this match.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think John Dobson's going to send a strong team here because, top seedings on the line for the Stormers, right? If they go undefeated, they could be the number one team on the overall leaderboard. So, yeah, I think the Stormers go there. I think the Harlequins across. I really like Quins. They're quite close to where I live, but across the board, they've been the most disappointing team I think this season. So I think they're gonna take a relatively heavy defeat at the hand of the Stormers.
They played Leinster so tough in round one that it looked really
Mm.
good, but man, it has not been there since then. Obviously, they won the last match, but then you look at what they've done in the Prem when they returned from Champions Cup. It has not been great. Um, but Twickenham Stoop, it could be. I think it would be such an advantage if Glasgow and the Stormers finished with the top two seeds in the playoffs,
Mm.
and you would force teams to either have to go down to the Southern Hemisphere to play in Cape Town, or you would have to force teams to go up to a very still chilly in April Glasgow and play the Warriors there.
Yeah, yeah, wild, wild. Two horrible venues, great venues, but horrible venues to try and go win away in. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So same time on Sunday, 8 a.m. Eastern time for me. So this isn't even in the morning for you. So what is Robbie missing so he can watch the Toulon Munster match? What's he skipping?
Oh gosh, I've already written it into his schedule that he will be watching this match, Joe. So nothing really. Probably a little bit of an earlier morning swim for the little guy, and then he's ready to go. We'll get him his little bit of breakfast, and he's good to go. So he's got his Munster jersey. My cousin got him a Munster jersey for Christmas, so he's got it all lined up, ready to go for this one. And yeah, I think he's going to see a Munster win here. I'm hoping.
So here's my thing. I'm picking Munster because if they lose this match, why did they punt the match against Ulster last week? I mean, they
Mm.
didn't really play their top team against Ulster, and they've got ran out of the stadium out in Belfast. So to me, it seems like they were really focusing on this match against Toulon. So I'm picking Munster to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think I said on our big preview before the Champions Cup kicked off that I felt everybody would lose at least once, and I thought Munster would lose away to Bath and win in Toulon. So I think they will win in Toulon, but I agree. My personal preference would be that Munster focus on the URC and rest their players on the away matches in the Champions Cup. But Munster is a province, and I grew up on this. There's too much respect for the Champions Cup to punt on any matches. So yeah, I think they're going to go down there. They won in Toulon last time they were down there, and I think they'll do it again.
Obviously, the schedule makers agree with me that the two best matches of this round are definitely the two matches we've talked about the most so far because they are the last two matches of the round. 10:15 a.m. in Stade Chapon Damas. I
Not
am
bad.
not.
Stash Shaban Damas. Yeah, not
All
far
right,
off.
there we go.
Yeah,
I'm getting better.
you are.
Union Bordeaux Begla host the Northampton Saints. Both of
Oh,
these
yeah.
teams are 2-0. Both of these teams are right there with the Stormers and the Warriors trying to get that top seed. I'll tell you what, Philip, whoever loses this match probably not getting the top seed in Champions Cup
Mm,
playoffs. This is really big. I'm taking the Saints to win this match. I think I picked
that's
this game already earlier on the podcast. I'm taking the Saints.
that's a big call. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be so tight either way. I think it'll be one try between it. I'm gonna go with Bordeaux just because they're at home. If this was at Franklin's Gardens, I'd go with the Saints, but I just think when you think of Damien Penaud, Louis Bielbiaré, Matthew Jalibert, and just the quality, Nicolas Deporter, the players they can pull off there, I think Bordeaux just get it done, and I think it's going to be really tight. I think they just get it done.
I mean, the Saints already threw this competition for a whirl when they went to Po and won in
Mm-hmm.
France. If you
Mm-hmm.
can win in Po, you can win in Bordeaux based on what we've seen in the top 14, in my opinion. So
True.
uh, maybe, and I don't see the Saints not bringing their A team. Maybe you see differently, but yeah, I think the Saint. I that's why I'm picking the Saints.
Yeah, no, the Saints are definitely going to go locked and loaded. I completely agree, Joe. Yeah, for sure. But I think Bordeaux, I think Bordeaux still just edge it. I think if it was on a neutral field, even I would still go. I would probably go with Northampton, but it's really so tight, razor thin.
The last match of round three at 12:30 p.m. on Sunday at StoneX Stadium. I'm sorry, that name of that stadium always cracks me up. StoneX Stadium. All right. Uh,
It used to be called Vicarage Road, I think, from memory, but yeah.
you know what? That is a better name. uh, Saracens hosting Toulouse. Now, here's the thing. I picked Toulouse in Glasgow, Scotland. I
You did?
think that if I did, remember that?
Yeah, yeah. I think you were about
So
the only pundit I saw pick them.
so uh also if I had known Antoine Dupont was going to be healthy for all these matches, I might have picked Toulouse to win the Champions Cup um, at the start of it instead of the Stormers. So, naturally, I'm picking Saracens to win this match in England. Uh, Even though I could be accused of being a Toulouse homer, I think they're probably the best club in the world. Still, I think Saracens is really going to bring it. I think Toulouse falls. I don't think Toulouse blows this game like they did in Glasgow after a big lead. I think Saracens hangs tough, and I think they win at the end.
Wow. Big call, but you got it right with Glasgow. But again, Joe, I can't go there with you. I can't go against Toulouse. I'm going to go with Toulouse in this one. I think they've learned their lesson from what they did in Glasgow. That you never give a sucker a chance, and I think they're going to just go after Sarries here. So I think it's going to be Toulouse all the way because any chance of being a high seed is predicated on a big bonus point win here.
I mean, let's say in this fantasy world that Toulouse does lose this match. How awesome of
Oh,
a
yeah.
round 16 match are we going to have? Because we're going to have Toulouse go on the road against one of the a really awesome team. We might have, if they lose this match, they might have to go back to Glasgow.
Yeah, true. It's a good point. It's funny actually the parallels with the NFL this season, how wacky the playoffs have been there. When you look at no Joe Burrow, no Pat Mahomes, there's no Lamar Jackson. Imagine like Toulouse way down in the rankings. It would be wild. It's or if UBB lose at home and they're going on the road somewhere at some point, or Leinster lose to La Rochelle, you know, it could be completely thrown all over the show.
Well, there you have it. That's who's going to win this match. You either believe in Philip or you believe in me, but otherwise, we just want good rugby all weekend long here at Flow Rugby. We also have Japan Rugby League One. What a great fun league that is! That is streaming, so stay up late or get up early to watch those matches. Philip, we've got the weekly club rankings are coming out. Any spoilers you want to throw out there?
We got a lot of feedback for our rankings prior to the end of the year. Was it? I think our big board where we did all the rankings and people were saying, oh, they may be called too loose, but they'll be the team to win at the end. I think we'll have some big shifts coming in this week. It's all being calculated at the moment. There's a couple of little spoilers. There's been a couple of teams who you would have thought would be rising up the rankings who are still dropping down the rankings. So that will all be released tomorrow morning. So midday, sorry, UK time. I'm trying to calculate what that is. 6 a.m. Where you are.
Wednesday morning in the United States. We're filming this on Tuesday. It's coming. Also, let's just throw this out here for you rabid Super Rugby Pacific fans there. Look, we love those clubs. We think they're great. They just aren't playing yet. So you're not
True.
going to find them in the rankings because they can't factor in. But guess what? Super Rugby does return back in a month, so they will be in our rankings very, very soon.
No doubt, no doubt they'll be popping right back in there. It was, I did enjoy that comment. I did enjoy. Where are the Super Rugby teams? Well, they haven't played any matches yet this year, so
All right, everyone, watch rugby this week. It's going to be great. It's Champions Cup season. Don't miss the Challenge Cup either. Philip, happy New Year, my friend, and happy round 3 of the Champions Cup this week.
Happy New Year, Joe. Blessed to be doing this with you for another season.